Hello and welcome to the Awareness to Action Enneagram podcast that focuses on our distinct approach to this amazing system of understanding human nature. My name is Mario Sakura, coming to you from Philadelphia, and I'm joined by Maria Jose Munita.
Hello from Santiago, Chile.
And Tamer Zanati.
Hello from Cairo, Egypt.
We are partners at Awareness to Action International, a consulting firm specializing in practical applications of the Enneagram. You can find out more about our work at awareness2action.com.
In this season of the podcast, we are focusing on exploring each of the 3 instinctual biases and 9 strategies through the lens of a movie, looking at one movie that we feel represents the essence of the bias or Ennea-type.
So make some popcorn, sit back, and enjoy the program. Leave the gun, take the cannoli. We're going to the mattresses with this episode of the Enneagram in a Movie podcast. This is season 1 of the Awareness to Action Enneagram podcast. And we are moving with this episode from the instinctual biases to the 9 strategies. And we're doing it in a big way. We're doing it with the movie The Godfather and talking about Ennea-Type 8. We're excited about this. The Godfather is certainly one of my favorite movies. It's a movie that we talk about a lot between the 3 of us and even use clips of it during our training programs. So let me ask you, Maria Jose, Tamer, are you guys as excited about this podcast as I am?
I am so excited about it. I also remember the times that we went to the restaurant of Coppola in San Francisco. I mean, this is in the background while watching the movie.
Yeah, I am very excited. Not sure that anyone can be as excited as you are about the movie, but very excited. I really like the movie.
Yeah, so I think, this kind of makes a good opportunity talking about my excitement for this movie. I think it is a good opportunity for us to mention our biases and what we each bring to each of these discussions about the different types, the different instinctual biases, right? We saw that when we talked about the instinctual biases in the movies, how our own biases influenced the way we thought about these things. And we all have our own interpretations and our own reactions to Ennea-Type 8s. And I think it's important to point out that I am an Ennea-Type 8, and that will certainly influence my reaction to this movie. But I'm curious with the 2 of you, how you think your biases affects your understanding of the Ennea-Type 8 and your reaction to this movie.
I've watched it several times, and in this last time, in preparation for the podcast, I was thinking, okay, so now it's not just entertainment, but we're using these to show things about the strategies. And although I really like what happens in the movie, even if there's violence and all of that, I enjoy it. There was something about, what should we say about 8s? That they're all not all mobsters, or that not every 8 likes to kill people, So as a type 1, I was thinking about the message we were going to send and how we needed to be careful in terms of the good and bad, the right or wrong in the movie.
So that's an interesting point. And before I ask you, Tamer, to answer the same question, this idea of right or wrong certainly permeates the movie. But it's a group of really amoral characters, right? I don't know that I'd call them immoral necessarily, although one could make that argument. But it's the amorality, the lack of conventional moral codes that I think permeates the characters.
My experience with the 8s are different, and I think it's the same with different people with different preferred strategies. It really depends on how healthy is the relationship. So I had bad experience with 8s, and I have very good experiences with 8s. For this specific movie, I love the movie since a long time. I've watched it not like you, Mario. I'm sure that you're having a record in watching the movie, but I watched it many times. And I think the scriptwriter, Mario Puzo, and Coppola, the director, made a great work in romanticizing the mafia, really making the characters likable. somehow that you really relate to, and you can really forgive their immorality somehow. So they did a great job in that. So
Yeah.
I mean, most of the characters, especially the ones that the script and the direction made them likable.
Yes, this is kind of the ultimate anti-hero movie, right? You find yourself rooting for people who are arguably bad people, right? I mean, even Vito, who's I think the most likable of the main characters, the most sympathetic, is a murderer. Right. And, Sonny's a guy, and spoiler alert here, but if you haven't seen this in Godfather 2, well, then shame on you. But, Michael is a guy who kills his brother at the end. Right. And Sonny, Sonny's never met anybody he didn't want to kill. So yeah, absolutely. We find ourselves drawn to these characters in an interesting and strange sort of way.
Yeah, I think that the complexity of the characters makes it more interesting to me. It might be that they're bad people or doing bad things. I'm not sure that there's really bad people, but they do bad things. And the way in which we can see how they're feeling and how they react and all the insights they have and how they play the politics. And it's just fascinating to me.
Yeah.
And they're just human beings, and not in every movie you can see that level of complexity, I think, and that makes it enjoyable to me.
Yeah, I think it's important to point out that we are talking about a piece of art here. I mean, this is arguably the greatest movie ever made. If you look at the lists of all-time great movies, it's usually near the top, if not at the top. You might see Citizen Kane, you might see Casablanca. There's really it's hard to top this as a film that captured both artistic excellence and fun, engaging storytelling, right? And I don't know if either of you have read the book that this is based on. It's a fun book to read, right? And in fact, it's very similar, obviously, but there are some key differences. For example, Luca Brasi, who kind of plays in the movie as kind of a lovable, goofy sort of guy, is a really evil human being in the book, right? And also I find that Vito Corleone, played by Marlon Brando, is much more likable and interesting in the movie than he is in the book. So Coppola really took this to a new level, right? I mean, this really is an excellent, excellent movie. We're using this, like we've said in the other podcasts, we are not focusing on a particular character to illustrate the instinctual bias or the Enneagram type. We're talking about the theme of the movie as a whole, the gestalt of the movie, if you will. And certainly that comes across here. This movie, I mean, it's just about eightness, right? I mean, it's about power, it's about lust, and all of these things. It's about vengeance, for sure. And at the same time, it gives us great examples of characters who are very well drawn Enneagram Type 8s. Okay? And in fact, and I don't know if this comes up in any of the other movies that we'll be talking about, but we have really vivid examples of all three subtypes of the Type 8 in this movie. And we'll talk about that toward the end of the session. Okay. So with Enneagram Type 8, go ahead, Maria. Did you want to say something? No? All right.
No, but it's just 8 everywhere. I mean, power everywhere, in every, maybe not every scene, but could be,
Yeah, except for poor Fredo, right? Poor Fredo.
Lack of power.
Yeah, not certainly not a Type 8, but I think an argument could be made for the sister. Drawing a blank on right now. How could that possibly be?
Connie,
yes, thank you. She could arguably be a Type 8, and if you read the book, the mother, even Vito's wife, is a Type 8. She's a tough person. So, anyways, let's talk about the Type 8. Okay, so the classical Enneagram looks at a few fundamental ideas. Okay, so we have this idea of a vice that each type is based on, and that vice for the Enneagram Type 8 is lust. Okay, this desire, this single-minded desire for something. We also have what's called the fixation this mental pattern that the eight can't get out of, or that it can get stuck in. And that is vengeance. And the virtue at point 8 is innocence, letting go of that. So I'm curious, how did you guys see lust in this movie? Were there any vivid examples of lust? in a variety of ways, right? There was certainly Sonny with his, that girl he's been doing all that comedy with, as his father says. But what other ways do you see lust?
I think it's everything. To me, lust, it's also like these desire to leave the experiences in a kind of fully and take it to the extreme and everything. And many things are like that. And I'm going to the end of the movie, but the baptism scene, it's lustful in terms of killing,
Yes.
So it's not just sex or romance, it's everything that could be lustful. The wedding, the beginning of the movie, it's full of music and food and everything. So it's, I don't know, there are many places where we can see that.
Yes. It's a great point about the wedding. I mean, even Clemenza, when he's dancing and he stops, he says, "Hey, Paulie, bring me a drink," right? And Paulie brings him a whole pitcher of sangria, right? And, and Clemenza's drinking from the pitcher, not just a glass. So absolutely. And then Paulie's looking at the gift bag that Connie is collecting and saying, "Oh, $30,000 in small bills," that lusting for the money and so forth. So great examples, right? The fixation is vengeance. And if there's, So Tamer, any examples of vengeance stand out for you in the movie?
Any example that does not have vengeance in the movie, I think that would be. I mean, when you look at the scene of the horse, the head of the horse, that's like, it's like the top of the mountain of vengeance. So it's like really dead heart. It's like cold blooded. When you see the baptism scene, I mean, it's very cold-blooded vengeance. Like our really, like Michael Corleone saying to the whole mafia, "I will really show you what I can do," and they do it without even blinking my eyes. So I think it's everywhere. Even the scenes where Santino is hitting, is beating the husband of his sister, and so on. It's really. It's really like he kept on hitting him. The guy already lost conscious and kept on hitting him. So it's like I really would like to take this energy out of me into really a full vengeance somehow. So it's everywhere. It's all over.
and I think that even when it's not taking place, it's hanging it's part of the power they have. So if you do not do what I want you to do, I'll take revenge. It's part of the power that I have. So it's everywhere, even when it's kind of silent.
So it's an interesting quality, because this idea of vengeance in the Enneagram Type 8, it's really it's not the vengeance that's the motivation. It's what vengeance accomplishes, and it's usually this idea of getting back on top, right? Getting back into power. It's power that motivates the 8. It's this desire to feel powerful. And if you've been slighted by someone, if you have been, made low in some way by someone, taken advantage of, then you don't feel powerful anymore. So the mental pattern of vengeance serves the 8 the purpose of getting back on top, right? So if you hit me once, I'm going to hit you twice, right? And, and then we'll escalate from there. So this is where vengeance comes in for the 8. Now, innocence, right? So there are some very interesting moments of innocence in the movie played out. I saw them most in Vito, played by Marlon Brando. Maria Jose, tell us about that.
Again, it's this complexity that I was talking about. It's revealed also in how they want to kill someone, but then they are innocent in terms of, I don't know, caring about the people, their family especially, and also thinking that they're doing what's right, like in an innocent way. There's this quality of innocence that it's there even when they're doing bad things. So it's not just the typically innocent scene, but it's this conflict that they have inside, or this contradiction most of the time when they are innocently taking care of their loved ones by shooting people.
Yes. And you make a really good point about the complexity of people, Maria Jose. And certainly we see that with the 8. We see it with all the Enneagram types, but it's very vivid with the 8 because I think the contradictions are so extreme in the 8, right? We often describe the 8 as a teddy bear inside of a grizzly bear, right? And so even in the opening scene when we see Marlon Brando sitting at the desk, metering out justice, right? And, plotting the, attacks on different people. He's playing with a kitten, right? And that was actually an improvisation by Marlon Brando. They had found this cat on the studio lot, and Brando said, "Hey, it'd be great to show Vito, playing with a kitten while he's doing this scene." So you see this in other places. You see it in Vito playing with his grandson at the end of the movie, right before he dies. That warmth and innocence that we see in the character. Now, again, we talked about the classical Enneagram with the vices and virtues and so forth. The awareness to action approach takes a little bit of a different approach to describing these things, right? We always talk about how, because a lot of the work that we do in organizations, we really don't want to go in and talk about the lustful type or, the vengeful type or something like that. So we use this idea of strategies that is driving what's at the heart of each one of these Enneagram types. And the strategy we identify for type 8 is striving to feel powerful. And again, I would argue that this movie is all about power. Okay, it is all about how do I get control. Now, power is the capacity to produce a result, right? And if you know the story of the Godfather, Vito comes over to the United States, and as a child, in probably the 1910s or so, I forget exactly the date, but comes into a community where there's not a lot of justice. That there's kind of a street justice that goes on, and this was the rise of the legend is that it was the rise of the mafia to kind of protect, but quickly grew into something that was, far more sinister. Regardless, it is all about Vito trying to accumulate power. And there's a great line towards the end of it, at the end of the movie, where he talks about how, I never wanted to be, how does he put it? I've written it down here somewhere. Now I can't find it, but
no, I refuse to be a fool dancing on the strings held by all those big shots.
Yes, thank you. I had written that in my notes and I can't find it now. But yeah, absolutely. I don't want anybody to control me, which means that I have to do the controlling. Okay? Yeah. Now, the problem with this is that it never really works out that way, right? There's always, some problem. There's always some fly in the ointment. And we realize that nobody can really control everything. So this idea of power is the fundamental theme. We do talk about the connecting points of the Enneagram. So when we talk about 8s, we don't just talk about the strategy of striving to feel powerful, but we talk about their very specific relationship to the strategy at point 2 of striving to feel connected. And we talk about how there's kind of this cognitive distortion around that strategy. And so the 8 has a tendency to neglect the strategy of striving to feel connected because it feels threatening in some way. Right? If I connect to people too easily, it becomes a burden. And it's not just, I think that a lot of times people, when they talk about 8s, they start to talk about how they don't want to be vulnerable because they're not in touch with their emotions and all this other sort of stuff. But there's more to it than that. Right? And I think, again, the opening scene illustrates this. Connection for an 8 involves obligation. Right? If I am connected to you, you are under my protection. And I have to make sure you are worth the effort. So I think we could touch on that a bit more when we come back and talk about it.
Honored. Plumber.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, don't overestimate the value I place on either one of you. So, as soon as you cease to be useful to me, you'll be sleeping with the fishes, right? So
I know.
The other connecting point, speaking of which, is at point 5, striving to feel detached.
Yeah, with that strategy, and it's the support strategy for Type 8, and it's kind of what the 8s use in support or in addition to reinforce the strategy of striving to feel powerful. And to me, the phrase, it's not personal, it's business. It's kind of a really good way to demonstrate that, to illustrate the detachment. It's, you know what? Don't take it personal. It's not emotional. This is business.
Yes.
Kind of trying to convince themselves of that, trying to justify their emotional impulses and all that. But still, it's kind of a desire to take a distance and see things as a business.
It makes it easier for me to do the hard things that I feel like I have to do or that I want to do to get what I want if I just treat it as business. And so I don't know if either of you saw the movie You've Got Mail with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, where there's a lot of quotes from The Godfather in that Tom Hanks character. And he uses that line, and her response is, well, it's personal to me. Which is the thing that the 8 forgets, right? Hey, it's only business to me, but that doesn't negate the pain that you feel, unfortunately. We have these connecting points. The 8 is the preferred strategy, meaning it's the one that they use the most. Tend to neglect this strategy at point 2, striving to feel connected, and they use as a support strategy the strategy of striving to feel detached.
Awareness to Action offers a unique approach to applying the Enneagram professionally with leaders and organizations, as well as for personal development. What makes us stand apart is our Enneagram expertise and focus on understanding human nature.
We know people because we see people. And this is a skill set that can be taught and learned. Human nature is complex and simple at the same time. Our mission is to help people see clearly and act accordingly. Why? Because the ability to see ourselves and others clearly and honestly is essential. It enables us to act in more adaptive and useful ways.
The multicultural team in Awareness to Action will help you learn tools and practices to become more aware and also to understand and engage people more effectively. Learn more at awareness-to-action.com. Join us at 2021 for exciting learning opportunities.
Okay, so we're talking about The Godfather. If you have not seen the movie, please pause this podcast right now and go watch the movie and rejoin us in 3 hours and listen to the end. But again, we are going to give away spoilers because this movie is 48 years old. And if you haven't seen it yet, it's not my fault. So a couple of things. The Godfather, again, like we said, is arguably the greatest movie of all time. Some people who don't agree. It was released in 1972. It starred Marlon Brando, who won the Academy Award for as Best Actor that year for his portrayal of Vito Corleone. And so it's just a few notes here I found on IMDb. Widely regarded as one of the greatest films of all time, this mob drama based on Mario Puzo's novel of the same name focuses on the powerful Italian-American crime family of Don Vito Corleone, played by Marlon Brando. When the Don's youngest son, Michael, Al Pacino, reluctantly joins the mafia, he becomes involved in the inevitable cycle of violence and betrayal. Although Michael tries to maintain a normal relationship with his wife, Kay, played by Diane Keaton, he's drawn deeper into the family business. Now, if ever there has been an inadequate summary of a movie, that is it, right? I mean, it's just, there is so much more to this movie, so much that's happening. But how do you describe it? It's about a crime family and the youngest son's desire to stay out of it, but being pulled in. So written by Mario Puzo, as we said, released March 15, 1972. in addition to being one of the greatest movies ever made, it earned the most money of any movie up until Jaws, which came a few years later. So at the point it was released, it made $135 million off of a $6 million budget. A long movie, about 3 hours. And ironically, this movie was made because the movie studio Paramount decided that it wanted to make pulp kind of movies. It wanted to make simple kind of action, engaging movies that people didn't have to think too much about. So they bought this book from Mario Puzo, and they hired Francis Ford Coppola to make it. He did not want to make the movie, but he owed Paramount a lot of money from a flop from an earlier movie. So he went and made the movie. The other stars of the movie, Al Pacino, who plays Michael Corleone, James Caan, who plays Sonny, Richard Castellano as Clemenza, Robert Duvall as Tom Hagen, and one of my favorites playing Sollozzo is Al Lettieri. Al Lettieri was a fairly little-known actor, but with this movie, he went on to make a couple of other movies. He played one of the great heavies in the early 70s. He was also in movies The Getaway with Steve McQueen, where he plays a chilling criminal. And he was also the bad guy in one of my all-time favorite movies, Mr. Majestic, with Charles Bronson. So those are a couple of movies you can check out to get more of Al Lettieri. Rotten Tomatoes gives it a 98% score, with the audience score of also 98%. I want to know who those 2% are that didn't like The Godfather. A couple of reviews. Pauline Kael, a famous movie critic for The New Yorker, says, if ever there was a great example of how the best popular movies come out of a merger of commerce and art, The Godfather is it. So there's an interesting review here that I'd like the opinion from the two of you on. A well-known movie critic at the time said, I don't see how any gifted actor could have done less than Brando does here. His resonant power, his sheer innate force has rarely seemed weaker. So he panned Brando's performance here. What did you guys think of Brando's performance?
I would say, for me, that was one of the best roles that Brando has done, especially that he played an age that is not his real age. It was, probably 15 years older or more. At least, or maybe 20.
Yeah, he was 48 when he filmed
he
this
changed
movie.
his voice, he changed his facial features, and I read something like he used to put cloth inside his mouth in order to look this way, like different facial features. And he was really great. It's very impactful. Even the very subtle movements, like in the meeting with Sollozzo, putting his hands on his pants. It's like he's giving messages with every small move that he does during acting. So I think, on the contrary, he did a great job.
Yeah, I think that I agree. It might be that he's not the stereotypical kind of transmitting character, asserting himself, kind of clearly asserting himself. I think that he's more political, he's more strategic. There's more to what he doesn't say many times than what he says. And that might not be appreciated by some people.
I agreed. Tamara, to your point about the things in his mouth, he actually showed up at the audition with gauze in his mouth because he felt that Vito should look like a bulldog. So that's what he was trying to achieve. And then for the movie, they built him a prosthetic, so he didn't have to keep putting cloth in his mouth for the movie itself. But yeah, so he transferred. I think it was a pretty incredible performance. And I think, again, I know that Al Pacino was very upset that even though he's in more of the movie, he was nominated for Best Supporting Actor rather than Best Actor, which I don't think he won that year. Anyway, so I think it was a great performance. So what else? Content warning. So if you go to watch the Godfather, there are some scenes of violence, and it's
an understatement.
There are some scenes of non-violence.
So, uh, yeah, so it's interesting to me because when I watch this movie, it doesn't have the volume of violence that an Iron Man movie has, or the Avengers, or something like that, right? I mean, there's not nonstop action that you would see in a war movie, a Saving Private Ryan or something like that. I actually think the incidents of violence are fairly few, all things considered, but they're so shocking and vivid that they leave an impact, right? They're sudden, they're explosive. When Apollonia is blown up, right, in the car, it's this shocking, thud. Even when Brando dies at the end, I noticed this watching it this time. He falls down and dead in his garden, and even the way his legs sort of flicks, and kicks as a last gesture. There's even a violence to that almost, and a shocking quality to it. Right?
And I also think that the that itself are more loaded. Like its vengeance is kind of the emotion attached to it. It's more personal, And in other movies, it's like more shooting figures. I don't know. It's different.
Right?
Yes.
And I think, again, something about the suddenness of action, whether it be violence or whether it be the explosive nature of characters, is representative of Eights as well. Okay, so for example, when Vito is talking to Johnny Fontaine early in the movie, he's listening to him and he's gentle, and then all of a sudden he kind of jumps up and starts mocking him and smacks him in the face and all these sort of things, right? So there's
Act like a man.
Act like a man. This explosive.
He loses it.
Yes, exactly. There's this explosive quality, and Michael is the same way. I mean, Michael is cold and aloof and controlled, and I've heard people make the argument that Michael is an Enneagram Type 5, and just no. I mean, no, he's not. And that explosiveness that we see in Michael is certainly indicative of the 8. So. Cultural impact, right? I mean, holy cow. Very few movies have had the cultural impact of The Godfather. I would think maybe Star Wars is one that I would say had kind of the same long-lasting impact. Right? I mean, the lines, the quotes from The Godfather, there are few movies that have as many quotable lines, right? Leave the gun, take the cannoli, we're going to the mattresses, it's not personal, it's only business, and the ultimate, I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse. I think the only movie that I can think of that has more quotable lines would be Casablanca. We see a lot of lines there. It cemented the concept of the anti-hero. Again, there were anti-heroes in movies prior to that, but this really set the standard for the idea of the anti-hero. And it spawned countless imitations, right, and influences. Everything from The Sopranos to Goodfellas to even The Simpsons has ongoing kind of gags related to The Godfather. It just permeates culture in so many ways.
Even there's, I think I've told you that there's a movie for kids, Zootopia, that has a scene of the of the Godfather inside the movie. It's just, funny.
Yes, Tamer. So, being in Egypt, how were you originally exposed to The Godfather? Do you remember?
I think. Related to a certain social class. I didn't see the Godfather impacting culture in Egypt that much as people maybe understanding English and speaking English and watching movies. So I wouldn't say it had the same impact like the movie that we have discussed before, Saturday Night Fever, or probably Scarface, some of these movies. Godfather did not have that depth of an impact. So, and I haven't seen movies in Arabic that are based on the same theme or something like that. Maybe there are a couple of movies that are based on Scarface, but not Godfather. I think it's too complicated, and maybe it's too complex. I mean, in terms of the script itself and the length of the movie in order to do something similar to that. So, but for me, I mean, I love the movie. I don't know if it's personal or somehow culture, but I think it's more personal.
How about you, Maria Jose?
It's funny, I keep bringing this up, but maybe it's because we keep using historical movies. But now, so because I wasn't born when it came out, so what I can see is that there's something similar to what Tamara was saying regarding the language. Even when you see it translated, the translation is not always the same, and it's not accurate. So all these phrases, all these things that have permeated culture in English are kind of there, but it's not as strong. And because it has been there since I was born, it's hard to see the impact because it's been there from the beginning for me.
Right.
But when I look back and every time I watch the movie, I can see that there are things in culture that have been adopted because of the movie. But it's not as strong as you're describing there.
Make a good point about Scarface, right? So The Godfather was released in 1972. I was 9 years old when the movie came out. Scarface was released in 1983, I believe, again with Al Pacino. Very different character. I mean, he was, whereas I think that Michael is a preserving eight in The Godfather. I think we all agree on that. Very much a transmitting eight in Scarface, a very different character. And Scarface came out as rap music. Hip hop was starting to become popular in the U.S. And so he became sort of a cultural, Tony Montana became sort of a cultural touchstone in the early days of rap music, which I think really cemented that character as a more popular cultural figure in a lot of other parts of the world. So I was only 9 when The Godfather hit the movie theaters for the first time, and so I did not get to see it originally on the big screen. But about 5 years ago, it played in an art house repertory theater near where I live. And I thought, I've got to go see The Godfather on the big screen. I mean, there's no way I can not go see it. So I made plans to do it. And then I started thinking, my sons may never get the chance to see The Godfather on the big screen, and maybe I should take them. I have 4 boys, and my oldest 2 at the time were 10 and 12 years old, which is probably a little too young to see The Godfather on the big screen, right? So, but I wanted
any
them
other
to
screen.
any other screen.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm not sure that the screen size is the problem.
So it's funny. I'll tell a quick story. So before I went to see it, I went to one of these parent rating guides, and it said, to kind of list, what's wrong. And they list how many profanities there are and how many scenes of violence. And then it says, naked breasts for 2.5 seconds or something. And then it says cruelty to animals as the final thing, which I always thought was a, interesting way to point out issues with the movie. So my 10 and 12-year-old sons probably had kind of a traumatic first experience with The Godfather, but they have grown to love the movie since then. First scene that we want to talk about is the opening scene of the movie. And Maria Jose, why don't you describe the opening scene?
Yeah, so it's Connie's wedding and the mafia. It's what the custom is that the godfather or the father of the bride has to respond or concede every request from the people who attend. And so there's the scene with the Undertaker who wants justice, and it's requiring a favor. And it's all about, it's like a dance with the Godfather, with him they're not clear about the situation. He's trying to describe what he wants without being straightforward, saying that he wants someone killed or getting rid of. And the Godfather is more kind of responding in a way that it's like, why didn't you come to me before? Why don't you call me Godfather? And why don't you do this? So it's all about stating his position of power in front of the Undertaker. And finally, he just kneels down and kisses his ring. And it's all about, okay, you have the power, but please do what I need you to do.
Yeah, and so there's again a lot of the themes of the Type 8, right? There's this power and control and dominance. There's this, like we talked about before, is that I've got to feel you out whether you're worth the contribution of my time and energy. Okay,
And whether I can trust you. Will I be betrayed by you, or can I trust you when I need you?
yeah. So there's the loyalty test here.
Yeah, and he didn't make it easy for him.
No, he didn't make it. In fact, and this is one of the things that's so striking about the scene is that when he tells him, I'm going to do this favor for you, right? And, someday, and that day may never come, I may call on you for a favor, right? But until that day, just consider this act of justice a gift on my daughter's wedding day. And you're feeling like, oh, this poor guy, this poor guy, what did he get himself into now, right? And so again, it's that feeling of menace that permeates the movie. And I think too, again, when it comes to eights, people often feel uncomfortable with them, right? This idea that, I don't want to poke the bear. I don't want to take the wrong step. And, and they relate it to times that they've been abused in the past and, by eight sort of characters. So I'm curious about you guys' thoughts on that.
I like very much the way he used the terms friendship and respect, and is like throughout the conversation that he's bringing his own definition for respect and friendship. It's more of a loyalty. It's more of kind of respecting the rank rather than respecting the humanity inside and so on. And I think it's very much related to your question that it plays a dynamic that this is a power dynamic, and you have to join the system of my power dynamic in a certain way. Otherwise, I'm not ready to get you inside the system and really do whatever you want to do. So it's like there's a price to be part of my system. Is brilliant in really giving a snapshot of the whole movie in the very beginning.
Even the opening line of the movie by Bonacera, I believe in America. This idea that America is an idea, right? It's a system of beliefs, and the reality doesn't meet those beliefs, right? It doesn't always meet the aspirations that it has. This idea of justice, right? That justice will be done, that there will be opportunity for people who work hard. And we find out that, as in everything in life, things are more complicated. I think this is a good point to point out again. Not all eights are murderers and abusers and, mafia dons. Some of them are darn nice people, I've heard. So let's just keep that in mind. Ria, did you want to add anything to that?
Yes. So really nice people, not all of them, but no, it's, I agree. And I'm glad that you're making the point. So in that first scene, or first couple of scenes, it's when Johnny Fontaine, the godson of Godfather, comes, and when he starts crying and what am I going to do, and the Godfather loses it, and as I said before, he says act like a man. It's like, I think the only scene where I saw him get really frustrated at someone and shout, and I've seen that in AIDS. It's like, don't come to me crying, it's like, do something about it, come on, be a man. So it's a good portrait of how AIDS react to that. Because we're talking about kind of the Godfather and Sonny and Michael, but it's the movie, the whole movie is so AIDS-ish. So when the scene with Waltz, the movie, director, producer, and where that's a power play as well. I mean, he knows that Johnny is the best actor for that movie, but he just doesn't want him there, and
yes.
will not allow it.
Yes.
And well, he has to after he gets a gift in his bed. But so everywhere, it's kind of a power play and trying to demonstrate where I fit or what's my position, and it's above the rest.
I read something, I'm not sure if it's right or wrong, but that that was not the originally planned opening scene. There was another opening scene, and somehow there was
really?
struggle between Coppola and Paramount, because the scene, the way it is, it's very, the rhythm is not that high. And at the same time is moving into the wedding itself, that shooting this wedding with this way, it's very expensive somehow, and very complicated in terms of technicality of shooting. And I guess Coppola has just won the game and made it really great opening scene. I'm not sure if this story is right or wrong, but it's something that I read. So it's a power struggle game as well.
Yeah, exactly right, for the soul of the movie. Yeah, and so just a couple of again other historical points for movie nerds out there. The Johnny Fontaine character is based on Frank Sinatra and his desire to be in the movie From Here to Eternity. Sinatra was considered to be washed up at the time. They thought his voice was shot, and he ended up winning an Academy Award for his role in From Here to Eternity. And Sinatra was famously mixed up with gangsters, right? He was kind of a hanger-on, and they didn't really take him that seriously. And in fact, he wanted his gangster friends to murder Mario Puzo for basing this character on him. And they just told him, get out of here. Don't be such a clown, because they were quite happy with the way that the mafia was portrayed in this movie, right? It makes them look like sort of heroic characters. So Sinatra did not get his way ultimately. Are you interested in learning more about our approach to the Enneagram? Go to awareness-to-action.com and check out our certification program. We offer a clear, concise, business-friendly, and science-minded approach while maintaining the depth of traditional approaches to the system. At Awareness to Action International, we're the leading innovators in the theory and pragmatic applications of this system to all aspects of the work environment, including leadership and personal development, team building, diversity and culture, and managing change. However, this approach is not just for the business world. A lot of people who attend our trainings do so for their own self-development or spiritual growth. Our certification program is one of only a handful of curricula accredited as a school by the International Enneagram Association. It is currently being conducted virtually and combines live sessions with asynchronous learning. Again, find out more at awareness-to-action.com. Scene number 2 is the meeting with Sollozzo, or the Turk, the Al Lettieri character that we talked about before. Sollozzo plays a drug dealer who is known as being good with a knife, but only in matters of necessity and honor, or something to that effect. Okay, so he doesn't just stab people randomly. He stabs people who deserve it, apparently. But he wants the family to get into the drug business. And so he has a meeting with Vito and Sonny, Fredo, some of the other people working for Vito, as well as Tom Hagen. And he lays out the proposal, and Vito turns him down, which kind of gets the action of the rest of the movie going. He doesn't want to get into it, into the drug business. It's always interesting to me because we typically, and we're going to have to find a new movie clip to show during our trainings, but that's one that we have always shown as the way of trying to guess a character's Enneagram type, right? I'm always amazed at how many people get it wrong, who see him as kind of a 9-ish character and a preserving character because he talks about family and so forth. So the two of you, I'm curious, what makes this character, particularly in this scene, a good example of a type 8?
So to me is trying to feel powerful by understanding the landscape. So Tom comes with a lot of information about the Turk and about what he wants, who he works for, who he's an ally to from it. So that's how Vito reads or tries to understand the situation and make up his mind. And then the reasoning for declining the offer is more about losing power. So on the one hand, he could get power because getting into the drug business could make him be positioned in front of the other families in a new business, but then he would lose all these politicians and the police and all the influence that he has. And so it's not about being a coward or trying to feel peaceful or anything like that. He's just measuring how much power am I going to win versus how much power am I going to lose, and then makes up his mind.
Tamara, you mentioned the brushing of Sollozzo's leg. Say more about that and just his demeanor, I think.
Yeah, let me say something before that will lead to it. I see what was not said in this scene is more than what was said. I mean, if you look at the details of the scene, all the details of the scene, it's really expresses power, the power of Don Corleone himself, that it shows not necessarily in him, but in all the people looking at him. It's like understanding how powerful he is, whether in the small discussion in the beginning with Sonia and Tom Hagen, or in the larger discussion where Sollozzo came in and the other members of the family are sitting around. It's like everyone is really understanding the amount of power of Don Corleone in these two meetings. And also the way he moves, and here we'll come to your question, the way he moves, even when he changed his seat from a place to the others, it's like everyone is silent and waiting for the move that he's making. And then brushing the pants of Sollozzo, it's like giving a message. I mean, you're just a small kid, so listen to me. It's like putting things into perspective here. So you think you're coming with an opportunity, you think that we are joining forces, so we are equal in power. No, it's not the case. Let me tell you what is the case. So it really, even when Sonny started to talk and he's shutting him off in a very smooth way and a very gentle way, but very powerful way at the same time. So, and immediately Sonny, this reckless guy, became silent. He couldn't really resist. So I think it was, I mean, as we always say, it's a master scene. And Coppola did a great job here, is showing the power into small details in what is not said more than what was said.
It brings up for me this idea of gravitas, right? This, gravitas is just a weight that some people have, right? When they're in the room, you feel them, okay? And certainly Vito has that, okay? And I think Michael and Sonny have it as well. Not quite as, not quite to the extent or as in a refined way as Vito does, for sure. But he controls the room, right? Even without saying anything, even without doing anything. And there are these great reaction scenes that we see, right? When Sonny does speak out of turn and the camera goes from Clemenza to Tessio to Sollozzo and Tom Hagen, and just this look on their face of, oh boy, boy, he screwed it up now and there's going to be consequences to pay and so forth. So it's a beautiful scene. I think, too, for me, this scene also points, again, to this idea of amorality, right? One of my favorite lines from the whole movie happens in this scene where Vito, as he's dismissing Sollozzo, says, look, it doesn't matter to me what a man does for a living, right? As long as your ends don't interfere with mine, right? And so it's this idea that I'm not judging you. Right? I don't care that you're a drug dealer and you're going to ruin people's lives. That's not my business. My business is my business. And you're going to interfere with my business, which is the reason that I'm not doing this. And that amorality even is captured, I think, really well. You go from, in the scene that you mentioned, Tamara, where right before this, where he's talking to Tom and to Sonny about the Turk, the immediate scene before that is the horsehead scene. Right. And it ends with Walt screaming and screaming. Right. And then it just cuts to Marlon Brando's face. And he's just sitting there so calm and so peaceful, knowing that this guy just woke up with a dead a horse's head in his bed. Right? And what does he say to Tom? He says, "Oh, Tom, you're not too tired, are you?" And Tom says, "No, I got some sleep on the plane." So it's just this, it's this. I don't know. It's
business.
This. It's what? Go ahead. It's business. Yeah, absolutely. It's business. All right, great.
I mean, a metaphor that I see in this movie that represents the eighth power, which is very similar to the line when most of the time the lion will be sitting doing nothing, but the whole jungle understand that there's power there and we shouldn't mess with it.
Right.
So
Right.
somehow this scene like represent that.
So the third scene that we wanted to talk about is, as we know from the story, because Vito turns down Sollozzo says, well, the only way for me to get what I want is to try to kill Don Corleone. So they do attempt to kill him. It's unsuccessful, but Vito ends up in the hospital. Michael decides that in order to finish their revenge, he is going to kill Sollozzo and the police captain who punched him in the face earlier in the scene. So they have the scene in the restaurant, very famous scene. And again, a scene of striking and sudden violence. And then Michael has to flee to Italy for some time until things die down. Okay. And so while there, Michael is walking through the countryside one day with his two bodyguards, and he comes upon a young woman amongst a group of children and women. And there is this immediate chemistry between the two of them. It's referred to as the thunderbolt scene. Maria Jose, tell us what else happens in that scene.
They all see that immediate connection, the bodyguards and the women who were with her, with Apollonia. And so they were on their way to the village of Corleone, and they go up the mountain and they get there and they start talking to, they stop at the kind of bar or restaurant. They start talking to the owner, asking for this girl. So they were making fun, not making fun, but laughing about it.
They were describing a voluptuous woman.
Yes, who happened to be his daughter. And then he didn't like that so much and got really offended. But although it could have ended there, Michael was really bold and just asked to talk to him, and almost immediately said that he wanted to court her and marry her. And with all the respect, with the family, observing and all of that. So he could handle the situation really, really well in a few seconds. Just knew what he had to do and went straight to kind of get what he wanted.
Well, a few things that struck me upon rewatching that scene. One was just kind of the viscerality of experience, right? This, sometimes people talk about eights and, being body types, right? Which, we don't really talk too much about, don't put a huge amount of emphasis on. But here you feel it, right? I mean, there's this felt sense that we see in Michael, right? You can feel, even though he doesn't even blink, you can just feel something coming from him. Right? When he does go, as you said, there's that decisiveness. He explains, "Hey, look, I'm going to give you some information that could be very valuable to you. Right? I'm wanted by a lot of people. I'm hiding here in your country." And
even that's kind of calculated. I'm telling you this to build trust, so that you trust me and you do what I want. It's not like in a naive way that he's sharing information that could be harmful or to him. It's just all calculated.
Yes, exactly right. Because once I've given you this information, only two things can happen. Either I kill you or you let me marry your daughter, right? That's a power play.
It shows the clarity of agenda that the Eights would like to cut the chase and really get immediately. He got immediately to the topic, and this is what I want, and this is what I'm going to do. And it's kind of direct talk. It's not, no introduction. So on, this is exactly my agenda.
Yes. Understanding that there were no men in town. He knew already that all the men had died. So he had everything to win,
Also, the level of self-confidence that has been shown by Al Pacino in this scene is really also representing the self-confidence of the Eight. Went and really, he does not know this culture of these people there and so on. He's chased by others and who wants to kill him. And he really very, self-confidently proposing in a very direct way.
Yeah. And even the language that he chooses to speak, he knows that he's not completely comfortable or fluent in Italian, so he asks to be translated so that he's not in a position of like inferiority, but still managing to.
That's interesting because I hadn't thought of that before, and that's a really good example. I'm not going to bumble my way through the language, and I am going to show that I'm so important that you're going to translate my words exactly as I say them, sort of thing. Yes, that's a nice move. I'll have to try that sometime. So. I think, too, one final thought on the Apollonia scene is that this kind of cements the transition or the maturation of Michael and his sense of who he is, right? Because, he was never a timid sort of guy, but he didn't want to be in the family business. He was supposed to go straight. At the same time, he was a war hero, right? He was viewed as kind of the college boy and all that sort of thing. But he said, "No, I'll go kill, Sollozzo." And so he was always pretty self-confident. But there's a different air about him in this scene, right? A kind of settledness that wasn't quite there earlier in the movie. So
yeah, and it's interesting to me that although there was this look between them of like passion, attraction, there was the detachment as well. And it's almost like, it's not that I'm in love. I mean, I just saw the girl once, but I need to get married, and she looks good. It feels like business,
It's funny because this is sort of the lust of the eight. Again, it's this object of desires. I want that, right? It's when King David, says about Bathsheba in the Old Testament. She looks good to me, and so I want her. So I'm going to send her husband off to be killed in the war or something, right? And so it's just this idea. But there is this sort of adding of a trophy quality that happens. And you see that same sort of thing when he goes back for Kay after Apollonia dies, and he's back in the States for over a year, and he just goes to her and he says something like, I love you and I want to be with you and I want to get married, so come on, let's go, right? He's saying these words that could be very romantic, but there's nothing romantic about them.
I'm giving you an order, it's declarative. It's not romantic at all.
That's right. It's not quite framed as an order, but it's understood as an order of this is what's going to happen. Right?
And I think that it's key to eight. It's speaking in a more declarative way. It's sometimes not the intention, but it just feels like that. I have a 9-year-old type 8 daughter, and she speaks like that as well. It's just declarative. Whatever they say, it feels like an instruction.
Are you interested in learning more about our approach to the Enneagram? Go to awareness-to-action.com and check out our certification program. We offer a clear, concise, business-friendly, and science-minded approach while maintaining the depth of traditional approaches to the system. At Awareness to Action International, we're the leading innovators in the theory and pragmatic applications of this system to all aspects of the work environment, including leadership and personal development, team building, diversity and culture, and managing change. However, this approach is not just for the business world. A lot of people who attend our trainings do so for their own self-development or spiritual growth. Our certification program is one of only a handful of curricula accredited as a school by the International Enneagram Association. It is currently being conducted virtually and combines live sessions with asynchronous learning. Again, find out more at awareness-to-action.com. Okay, so fourth and final scene that we're going to take a look at is perhaps one of the most amazing sequences in all of film, the baptism scene. Michael agrees that he is going to be the godfather of his nephew on the same day that he's planning to kill the husband of this baby that he's going to be the godfather of. And he is also going to exact his revenge on all of those who have proven to be enemies and who tried to kill his father. A very operatic scene, right? I mean, the music in this, the organ music, is way over the top, and there's this juxtaposition of the ritual of the church with the ritual of killing. It's it's God and Satan fighting, over the city of God, in real time. It's a beautifully shot scene, and it's chilling, right? Because at the moment, there's this organ buildup, and at the moment when the priest asks Michael if he renounces Satan, he says, "I do renounce him." And then all of a sudden they cut to these scenes of all these people being blown away, right?
Yeah, that he's becoming the godfather of the baby, but he's becoming the godfather of the family at that time. It's like two baptism in a way.
Exactly right.
He's stating his position in a way that it's impossible to reject, because he's just doing whatever he needs to do to be in power.
Yes, absolutely right. So there's the literal baptism and the metaphorical baptism. The baptism in the Christian tradition represents a rebirth, right? It's being reborn in a state of grace, having our sins washed away by the waters, and again, Michael is moving into a life of sin. It's almost like a reverse baptism of this way, of any innocence that he had, any goodness that he had is being washed away through these acts, and the amorality certainly carries on. So again, this idea of vengeance is just very, very critical in understanding the Type 8. This is vengeance on steroids. It's a very extreme example.
And it's also, I think, if you go back to the scene, the last conversation with Vito, with his father, talking about where Vito envisioned Michael being, and as a governor or somewhere in power where people could not touch him. And now he's afraid that he's dying, and he's kind of threatened by the other families. And Michael is like, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it." It's either I'll die or you'd all die. And that's what he did, killed them all.
And in this scene also, I saw a good demonstration of the connecting point at 5, where detachment is being really demonstrated in a very good way, where Michael is really not blinking an eye, he is really very calm, while all of these massacres happening all over the place, killing few peoples and really changing the landscape of the mafia at the same time as he's doing this very calmly. And even when when his men came, and one of his men came and just give him the final report on what happened, he didn't even blink an eye. It's like moving very smoothly by completely detaching from the core of the events. So I see this a good demonstration of the dynamics at between point 8 and 5.
And this is, again, why we call it the support strategy, right? This idea that strategy can be used to reinforce our concept of experiencing, or our experience of feeling, the preferred strategy. So 8's use striving to feel detached in order to feel more powerful. Something I forgot to say at the beginning of the session is that for us, it's all about the strategies, and it's not so much good or bad. It's about whether you use the strategy adaptively or maladaptively. And certainly throughout this movie, you have characters who are using the strategy of striving to feel powerful in maladaptive ways. Okay, and this is a great example of that. And the strategy of striving to feel detached reinforces that. You mean nothing to me, so I think nothing of killing you, right? Is kind of the darkest aspect of 8ness. Now, it's important to understand that detachment can be used in very positive ways as well, because, again, not all 8s are going to kill people on the day of the baptism of their nephew. Some of them are pretty good people who will do good things in the world, but still that ability to detach emotionally can be very valuable to the 8 in doing good work as well.
I would say, Mario, this adds to the power of the 8, that I can really detach from emotion and really focus my power into certain direction to create certain results. So this is really adding, whether when it's maladaptively or adaptively used, it adds to the power in both ways.
Absolutely. Maria Jose, anything you would add to that?
No, we covered that part of the 8.
But in great detail. Okay, great.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we'll wrap up with a few final comments. Now, our podcast has not been quite as long as The Godfather, but we are coming to a close. So as we said at the beginning, and we probably won't get the chance to do this with all of the movies, but we do see very vivid examples of all three subtypes of the Enneagram Type 8 here. Vito is the navigating 8, which other people call social. The lust and the desire for power related to influence, right? To influence over the group. And this is the theme, particularly if you watch Godfather 2, which tells the early history of Vito. He gained power through his connections to people, right? Through his ability to influence, his ability to do favors for people and have them be in his debt, his ability to gather information and to know things that other people don't know. This is how the navigating 8 tries to feel powerful. Sonny, played by James Caan, is a transmitting 8. Okay, this is the expressive, assertive kind of stereotype of the 8. And it was interesting. We did a training recently. You weren't there for this, Maria Jose, but one of the participants insisted that Sonny is a 7, which we get a lot when we have people doing an evaluation of that. But no, this is a transmitting 8 character. The Sonny is all about lust and violence. And, people say, well, look how excitable he is. Yeah, he's excited about killing people. Right. That's Sonny. Again, not a very healthy example of the transmitting 8, but certainly an example of that. And then finally, with Michael, we have the preserving 8. Again, we do believe he's Type 8. It is all about striving to feel powerful, but it is control over resources. Right? So the way I think about these three characters, it's, Vito is exercising control over the group, power over the group. Sonny is exercising power over the other, the immediate other, right? The object of his lust. And his lust is for experience, I think. Whereas Michael is all about control of the resources, control of the operations, very methodical, very deliberate. You can see Michael being the head of operations for a large corporation, or the supply chain vice president in a Fortune 500, because that's the way his mind works. Comments on the three subtypes from you guys?
Well, I would comment on the way the script is written, or the whole story. I mean, this is something that I always see in great movies. The more they are following the lines as per the Enneagram, or which is the real life, the more it's really a good movie, because you can find consistency in the behaviors of the characters. It's like they keep on behaving in ways that is consistent. But I mean, other movies that they are not very well written, you would see behavior that are not really, that does not come from the same character, but has been put into different scenes and so on. So this is one of the movies that shows that in a very great way.
I think in every training, we get a lot of people who think that Sonny is a 7, and Michael, he could be a 5. And in terms of Sonny, there's no lightness. He's excited about killing people, but he's not light, and he's not avoiding conflict or unpleasant situations. He just goes straight forward and does whatever he wants. So, I mean, those things to me show that he's an 8 and not a 7.
Even the scene where Clemenza is cooking, right? And he's, showing Michael how to make the sausage for the gravy. And he says, you never know when you're going to have to cook for 20 guys. And Sonny comes walking in and he says to them, quit fooling around. Right. I mean, they're cooking, they're not fooling around. They're cooking. But, so you're absolutely right. There is no lightness or fun to Sonny. And again, James Caan, I'm a big fan of James Caan's movies. And he almost always plays a transmitting 8, right?
If we had to see if there's what the passion behind him or in him is, it's not gluttony, it's lust.
No, it's absolutely lust. You're right. You're right. Another great example of a transmitting 8 character by James Caan is the movie Thief, which I'm a big fan of, and there's another one that came to my mind that I'm forgetting now. But Anyway, James Connoll plays a transmitting agent.
And regarding Michael, I think when he starts showing up, when he says that he's going to shoot Salazzo and the police officer, he's cool. I mean, and cold, but he's not detached. He's not just planning how to do it or strategizing. He wants to go and do it.
He's not creating the plan for somebody else, right?
No. and he's taking control. And even if he's the youngest, he's in charge.
Closing thoughts here on the movie. For me, and it struck me, I think, probably most watching it this most recent time the other day, that this idea of how it's always kind of folly to think that you can control everything, that you can dominate everything, because we are so interconnected. We're so dependent on each other as a species to feel like you can just be the top dog for any length of time is not a sustainable worldview. And so there's always this idea of, eights need to learn to connect to people, and they need to learn to be vulnerable and to be collaborative and all these other sort of things. And whenever we're working with eights, we don't tell them that they need to do these things because it's just the right thing to do. We tell them that if you want to be powerful in the long term, here's the way to go about it. Be nice to people, be kind, be gentle, be gracious, and so forth. That's what real power is. I think if the Godfather series tells us anything, it's the folly of a limited interpretation of what it means to be powerful. How if an 8 wants to grow, they really have to redefine that. Closing thoughts from you guys?
After that, I think we need to close with that.
Very good. All right. So thanks, guys.
Tamer?
No, I'm saying that was a good conclusion for the whole thing. Yeah. It's
all right. So next movie, another movie I'm really excited about is The Big Lebowski. Yes, one of my other favorite movies. So we'll be talking about The Big Lebowski and Ennea-Type 9 in the next episode of The Enneagram in a Movie. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Awareness to Action Enneagram podcast. Thanks for listening, and we hope you'll join us for the next episode. In the meantime, if you've enjoyed the podcast, we ask you to go to wherever you get your podcasts and give us a review. Visit us at awareness2action.com and follow Awareness to Action on social media.